Dark Truths of Tetanus Cases during the 1800s. In this video, we'll be exploring the dark truths of deaths caused by a now uncommon but serious disease called tetanus. In the modern times, our medical knowledge of disease and prevention has advanced where tetanus has become a rare occurrence due to the development of vaccinations. However, during the 1800s, there was no vaccine or any methods to combat the horrific effects tetanus would cause, and the method for inactivating tetanus toxin with formaldehyde was developed in the early 1920s. This led to the development of tetanus toxoid in 1924, which was first widely used during World War II. There have been 29 confirmed cases of tetanus in England and Wales, and 2 fatalities who were both women in their 80s. This led the way for a vaccination to be introduced in the UK in '61. And the vaccination has been so successful that the vicious, fatal effect of tetanus had been forgotten. But in the 1800s, tetanus was startlingly common, and it was possible for even the most trivial wound to lead to infection. It made almost any activity potentially fatal. What is tetanus, you might be asking yourself? It is a serious infection caused by Clostridium tetani, and is a bacterium that produces a toxin that affects the brain and nervous system, causing tetanus, which leads to muscle stiffness and other symptoms, such as trouble swallowing, sudden, involuntary muscle often spasms in the stomach, painful muscle stiffness all over the body, seizures, headache, fever and sweating, changes in blood pressure and heart rate. The bacteria exist in soil, manure, and other environmental agents. A person who experiences a puncture wound with a contaminated object can develop the infection, which can affect the whole body, and in some cases, it becomes fatal. Tetanus symptoms usually emerge about 7 to 10 days after initial infection. However, this can vary from 4 days to about 3 weeks, or in some cases will develop after a few months. In 1923, a 7-year-old died of a tetanus infection after hurting his hand on a toy pistol. In 1927, a farmer died after falling over a pig, and the previous year, a 62-year-old woman died after scraping her elbow while picking peas, and in August 1899, a man died of an injury sustained while playing the leisurely garden game of quoits. He was the 4th death recorded from tetanus in Kent that week. However, quoits is far less dangerous game when it comes to football. As was discussed earlier in this video, tetanus is commonly found in soil, so the idea of flinging yourself around a muddy field was in many ways not the wisest choice. The cold reality of this can be found in Woodside Cemetery in Paisley, where a 14-foot-high granite monument stands commemorating one of the greatest Scottish football players, James Dunlop, of the late 1800s. It was 1890 to New Year's Day, where Dunlop was playing for St Mirren, when some idiotic spectator threw a broken glass bottle onto the pitch. Dunlop took a fall onto the pitch, cutting his knee on the broken glass bottle, and just 10 days later, he died of tetanus caused from the cut to his knee. He was only 21 years old. Another tale of a footballer who fallen victim to tetanus was Arsenal player Joseph Powell, or Joe for short. Joe was born in Bristol in 1870 and had joined the army as a young man, where he served for 6 years in the South Staffordshire Regiment. He played football for the regimental team and impressed enough in a match against the then Royal Arsenal, October 1892, that the club bought him out of the army and signed him as a professional that December. Having turned professional, Arsenal had been shunned by many other clubs and county associations and only competed in FA Cup matches and friendlies. A strong and purposeful right-back, Powell immediately became a regular in the Arsenal side. In 1893, Royal Arsenal were accepted into the Football League and joined the 2nd Division under the new name of Woolwich Arsenal. Powell captained the side in its inaugural match against Newcastle United on the 2nd of September 1893. He went on to play in all but 2 of the club's league matches that season, and was a near ever-present for the next 2 seasons. He scored his first and only league goal for Arsenal a 5-0 victory over Loughborough on the 4th of January 1896. Joe Powell's career permanently ended when he fractured his wrist while playing against Kettering in 1896, and despite having the arm amputated in a desperate attempt to save his life, he passed away 5 days later. Here are some more chilling cases of footballer deaths caused by tetanus. In 1899, a Reading player called Baker died after breaking his ankle. In 1923, Port Vale's Tom Butler died after breaking his arm while playing against Clapton, now Leyton Orient, and 6 years later, in an unusual twist, Orient centre-half Harry Cunningham died after breaking a big toe. If you were to do a basic search of newspaper archives, you would find dozens of deaths caused by tetanus contracted during games of amateur football. The most famous case of tetanus within football was the Wales fullback D. Jones, who was described as a remarkable tackler and played the open game to perfection, spending a decade at Bolton before being bought by Manchester City for the princely sum of £25 in 1898, which is worth £4,072 today. Jones was born on 1867 in Treffernon, Shropshire. He began his career with Oswestry in 1882 and helped them win the Shropshire Cup. Jones moved to Chirk, with whom he won the Welsh Cup in 1887 and 1888, the latter as captain. He was then persuaded to join Newton Heath, but he soon moved on to Bolton Wanderers in March 1888 after just a friendly appearances for the Heathens. D. Jones was playing as a full-back, where he made his league and Bolton Wanderers debut on the 22nd of September 1888 at Deepdale, the home of Preston North End. Bolton Wanderers were defeated by the home team 3-1. D. Jones appeared in 12 of the 22 league matches played by Bolton Wanderers in season 1888 to 1889. With Jones in the team, Bolton kept one clean sheet and conceded a single goal on 11 occasions. At Bolton, he captained the side in the 1894 FA Cup final, but finished on the losing side as Notts County defeated Wanderers 4-1. In 10 years at Bolton, Jones made a total of 228 appearances and scored 4 goals before moving to Manchester City, where his former Chirk teammate, Billy Meredith, was a player. He made his Manchester City debut against Luton Town on the 8th of October, 1898. In his first season at City, the club won promotion to the First Division, the highest level of English football. He scored 1 goal in 114 appearances for City. While Jones was playing in a pre-season training game, where he fell and badly gashed his knee, the wound was treated at the scene and Jones walked 180 yards to an ambulance despite being advised to go on a stretcher before being taken to hospital, where he told his family the knee was wiped with a rag and stitched up. He returned home, but the wound started to suppurate, discharging amid the pus, grass, mud, and what his doctor thought was the head of a used match. Soon he could only eat when anesthetized with chloroform, and in 10 days he was dead. Jones said the cut was caused by broken glass embedded in the pitch, but after his death City insisted there was no truth in this at all, forcing the Manchester Evening News to print a retraction. The statement would lead the public to suppose the management showed no care or supervision of the playing enclosure, whereas the most careful attention is given to it. Their manager Tom Maley insisted. At the coroner's hearing, City said the usual dressings and cleansing matters were applied to the wound by skilled people at the ground, while the doctor who treated him at Manchester Royal Infirmary insisted the wound could not have been cleaned any more than it was. He however admitted it was possible that some grass might have got into a pocket under the skin, in which event it would not become visible until suppuration commenced. The player's own doctor suggested this happened not while he was in contact with any grass, but during the walk to the ambulance. After the court hearing, the evidence was presented to the jury, and they were not satisfied the injury had been properly treated either at the ground or hospital. The jury stated, "We cannot understand how with such a strong stalwart man, this tetanus could have set in, if he had been properly attended to. Furthermore, if walking to the ambulance was such a bad idea, surely he should have been stopped from doing so. However, Jones, a former miner, was a big man and mainly insisted it was a matter of impossibility to dictate to Jones. Moral suasion was no good and physical force was out of the question. The stretcher was brought, but he would not use it. He pushed everyone away. The jury was unhappy that blame had been pinned entirely on the player. Even if his refusal to climb on a stretcher ultimately led to his infection, they wanted to impress upon football clubs that they should not allow a man to walk off the field in a case like that. The coroner dismissed this suggestion of football clubs to supply a medical staff at the ground for every match. He scoffed. He exonerated the club and Jones's death was declared an accident. D. Jones left behind a wife and 2 children. His daughter, Nellie, was only 4 weeks old when he died. Some reports suggest City refused to help them, but this at least appears wide of the mark. They played Bolton in a benefit match, raising £100, which is worth £16,288,000 today. They presented his family with this sum the following December, though it is not clear whether this was the testimonial money delayed for 15 months or a different payment. It certainly did not attract the kind of controversy that such a delay might have warranted. But in the months after Jones' injury, customers at one Manchester sports shop would have noticed a new range of cleansing ointments, produced by the shop's co-owner Billy Meredith after the death of his great friend and former schoolmate. The legendary Welsh forward decided footballers should probably learn how to clean their wounds themselves in order to save their lives. Many years after the loss of these footballers, clubs were compelled to supply a trained medic for every match, and they were in no hurry to immunize players even when a tetanus vaccine became available. Neil Phillips, England's team doctor, was astonished to find that many players were not protected before the 1970 World Cup. We now conclude our video on dark truths of tetanus cases during the 1800s and like to say thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video and love historic tales with a dark twist, please feel free to like, subscribe and hit the bell icon to keep in the loop when the next video drops.